After a week's break in the calendar, the 2018 FIM Ice Speedway World Championship returns to Germany and to historic venue Inzell. Round 4 of the 2018 campaign is the penultimate event of the season, with the series ranking starting to settle and the gold medal up for grabs for the first time. The mid-season mark was reached in Germany's capital for round 4 of the 2018 World Championship. The opening day at the Horstdom Ice Stadion was far from straightforward for the Russian contenders. Dinar Valeev, struggling with mechanical problems throughout, dropped his worst ever meeting score with just 4, including 2 non-scoring outings. Fellow countryman Sergei Karachintsev, meanwhile, struggled throughout the weekend with a foot injury. After he dropped his lowest score of the season, Karachintsev withdrew, and he will also miss round 4 in Inzell as he attempts to recover full fitness. 2 weak-linked Russians paved the way for Martin Hiltunen to reach the final for a third time in 5 attempts, as he got the better of his fellow countryman Niklas Svensson in semi-final 1. And he then performed superbly to relegate Danil Ivanov to the back in the final, while Dmitry Koltkov up front roared away to record a 4th 2018 maximum score. Dinar Valeev showed improved form on day 2 in Berlin, passing Dmitry Komitsevich in Heat 9 for the first of 3 consecutive heat victories on his way to a first podium finish of the campaign. Martin Hiltunen was again the pick of the Western Europeans, but he fell short of the final after a fall, attempting to recover second position from Dmitry Komitsevich in semi-final 2. Dmitry Koltkov was the comfortable winner in the final. Danil Ivanov again missing out on the podium with 4th position and seeing his main rival's championship lead extend. After 5 wins in 6 meetings, including 4 maximum scores, Dmitry Koltkov extends a 25-point lead over Danil Ivanov, whose more realistic fight is to hold on to second, ahead of Dmitry Komitsevich. Nine times German champion Günther Bauer returns to the ice after a spell on the sidelines, recovering from injury and in time for his home round. The Ice Speedway legend and former world number 2 is undoubtedly the best possible spokesperson for the historic venue at Inzell. Of course, here in Inzell there's a long tradition in Ice Speedway. This is the 51st meeting. This is my home race and I have great memories on this track. I live only 30 kilometers from here and I have so many good memories of the place. This is the one round where all of my friends and sponsors come, so this is a very important race for me. I often say that Inzell is my living room, and of course here I have only good memories. I've won many races here, I've often made the final, and I can only say that every time I return here I'm happy. For me, it's the best place for Ice Speedway. I first came here as a young boy, just 9 years old, with my father, because he was the paddock manager here. I came every year with him and always found it very spectacular. Then a friend of mine started Ice Speedway, and he had no experience in motorcycling. So I convinced my father that if he could do it, then so could I. This year is my 28th season in Ice Speedway. This season has been really hard for me, right from the first practice in Sweden, with a lot of technical problems. Then in the qualifiers I was very unlucky and got a bad foot injury. I thought I'd recovered enough for the start of the GP series in Astana, but it was a mistake because my wound got infected. I tried to carry on, but it just got worse and worse, and the doctor told me if I didn't miss Berlin, I would probably never ride again. So for 3 weeks I did nothing, and my only goal was to be fit for this race, and now I'm really happy to be here. Of course, my target is to make the final, but at the moment I don't think I'm strong enough. What I want to do is to do as well as I can, and I'm sure I can make the semi-finals on both days. I feel good, and I'm looking forward to the support of the fans. Inzell is a genuine classic ice speedway venue, having hosted Western Europe's first ever world final back in 1969. For its 51st edition in 2018, a near-capacity crowd of 5,400 spectators have crammed into the Max Acre Arena to see the best 15 riders in the world battle it out over 2 days of competition. Fights for second, fourth and fifth in the championship look set to be close fought right to the final round of the season, with the lower order performers looking to rescue pride in their remaining outings in 2018. Stefan Svensson returned to the paddock in his capacity as series reserve, replacing Russia's Sergei Karachintsev, who missed the penultimate round of the season through injury. But it was Svensson himself who suffered a heavy fall in Heat 1, his inevitable disqualification leaving him up against it in terms of progression to the semi-final stages. In the rerun, Gunther Bauer delighted the home fans with his lap 3 pass on Jan Klotowski to hit the front. Their euphoria was short-lived, with the Czech surging back through on the final lap, becoming the opening race winner of the day. Bauer's wait for a first heat victory of the campaign continues. Dmitry Koltyakov's incredible 14-race winning run was brought to an end by Daniil Ivanov in Heat 2 after an entertaining scrap between the top two in the 2018 championship. Ivanov actually passed Koltyakov at the start of the second lap, and the pair remained side by side for almost 2 laps, swapping and changing racing lines before a brilliant cutback from Ivanov gave him the advantage. The race went right to the flag, but Koltyakov was held at bay, and 1 point of the reigning champions' overall 25-point lead in the 2018 series was chipped away. Hans Weber put in a strong opening lap to take second position in Heat 3, passing both Stefan Pletschaka and Niklas Svensson for the 2 race points behind Dmitry Kometsevich. But the biggest cheers in the opening round of races were reserved for Harold Simon, an Inzell fan's favourite, who battled his way brilliantly from third to first. The Austrian veteran picked his way past fellow countryman Franz Zorn for second on lap 2, an important direct matchup in the context of the battle for 6th position in the championship overall. And then Simon hunted down race leader Martin Hare-Hiltunen before surprising the Swede with one of his customary inside passes on the final lap. With 3 of the 4 Russian riders meeting one another in Heat 2, the Round 1 standings had an unusual look, with 2 Western Europeans in the top 4 positions. A strong start from Jan Klotowski and Harold Simon. After a scoreless opening outing, Jimmy Olsen was the surprise race winner of Heat 5. The Swede picked off pre-race favourite Franz Zorn on the opening lap and held on under pressure to the finish. A dramatic retirement from the race lead for Martin Hare-Hiltunen denied fans the opportunity to see whether the Swede could hold off Daniil Ivanov in Heat 6, and it also gave them something to cheer as Hans Weber hit the front. That position proved short-lived as Ivanov quickly swept back past. And there was more disappointment for the German crowd as Weber dropped to third on the final lap, with Jan Klatowski continuing his strong start to the meeting by taking second place. Dina Valeev moved back into the provisional qualification positions with victory in Heat 7 after passing the fast-starting Niklas Svensson. But Svensson appeared to be lacking power, as having also lost speed and places over the 4 laps in his opening ride, he dropped back to another third-place finish, Harold Simon getting through for second on the final lap. Dmitry Koltakov got back to winning ways in his second ride, bringing a conclusion to round 2 by inflicting a first defeat of the day on Dmitry Kometsevich. Behind the Russian leaders, Günther Bauer took third over Ove Ledstrom. After defeat for Dmitry Kometsevich, Daniil Ivanov was the only unbeaten rider after 2 rounds of heats, ahead of a quartet of riders on 5. Meanwhile, Martin Harri Hiltonen's Heat 6 retirement left him outside of the provisional qualification positions. Niklas Svensson's disappointing Inzell habit of losing positions continued in the third round as he was picked off late on by fellow countryman Ove Ledstrom. Ledstrom had been scoreless from his 2 opening rides, but put a 2-point score on the board after his last lap overtake. Jan Klatowski's strong opening to the meeting was undone by struggles in the latter stages, starting with a fall in Heat 10 whilst chasing third position. Home wildcard Stefan Pletschakker's wait for a first point of the campaign continued as he lost out to a determined ride from Jasper Iverma, the Dutchman making a lap 3 overtake for third in Heat 11. Germany's permanent duo Günther Bauer and Hans Weber each sat on 3 points coming into the third round, but neither enjoyed strong points returns in Heat 12. Hans Weber was disqualified after a fall attempting to pass Dina Valeev in the initial staging. And at the second attempt, Günther Bauer was passed by Dina Valeev and relegated to third. The young Russian then chased down Franz Zorn and hit the front on the final lap for his second race victory of the day. With Dina Valeev's successive wins, the Russian bloc was restored in the top 4 positions, both Austrians also inside the provisional qualification positions. But Günther Bauer, Hans Weber and Martin Harri Hiltonen were all outside of the top 8, looking for big points in their remaining outings. Martin Harri Hiltonen's struggles for major points continued as he was left on just 5 points from 4 rides and needing a big result from his final outing. The Swede was overhauled by Dina Valeev in Heat 13, behind comfortable race winner Dmitry Kometsevich. Franz Zorn continued to amass consistent points with his 3rd consecutive runner-up race finish, but he had to work hard to remain ahead of Niklas Svensson, who continued a run of 3rd places in Heat 14. Heat 15 was comfortably the best race of the 4th round. Right from the start, all 4 riders were in the mix. Jimmy Olsen passing Ove Ledstrom and Hans Weber simultaneously overhauling Jasper Iverma on the opening lap. Weber continued to press forward, challenging for 2nd position and moving aggressively past the Swede on lap 3. But Ledstrom kept his slender hopes of semi-final progression alive by getting back past Weber around the outside on the final lap and notching a 2nd consecutive 2-point score. Daniil Ivanov made it 4 rides unbeaten with a comfortable win in a strung-out Heat 16. Harold Simon moved on to 9 points to all but assure himself of qualification to the semi-finals, while Günther Bauer was left on a precarious 5 after his 3rd place finish. Harold Simon's consistent run of top 2 finishes made him the first Western European to secure semi-final progression in Inzell. The rest of the pack right down to 13th, still chasing points and in contention heading into the final round of heats. Dmitry Koltykov took a comfortable win in Heat 17 to complete his Heat programme on 14 and move provisionally top of the meeting standings. With Hans Weber needing an unlikely race win from the Heat, his elimination was confirmed despite a 2nd place finish. Jan Klatowski was looking for a win from Heat 18 to give himself the best possible chance of qualification to the semi-final stage, but in his desperation to hit the front, the Czech connected with early race leader Dinar Valeev and went down. Klatowski, inevitably disqualified, became the 2nd of the main semi-final contenders eliminated from the contest. Daniil Ivanov's maximum hopes were ended by a Heat 19 victory for Dmitry Kometsevich, despite a close pursuit, particularly in the early stages. Ivanov's defeat left the 3 lead Russians tied on 14 points apiece. After his earlier dropped points, Martin Haare-Hiltunen now needed a race victory from Heat 20 to be sure of his progression. Günther Bauer and Niklas Svensson alongside him also direct rivals for qualification, but it was Haare-Hiltunen who took a start-to-finish success. Jimmy Olsen finishing 2nd and progressing thanks to his 2 earlier race victories. A familiar story in the overall Heat results. The pace of the lead trio, tied on 14 points apiece over 5 rides each, looked more balanced than in previous events, foreshadowing a competitive final phase. Semi-final 1, the more attractive of the 2 semi-finals here, with a clear fight in prospect for the 2nd qualification position to the final. Off the inside gate in red, it's Dmitry Koltykov, unbeaten through the heats, a clear favourite here. Gate 2 in blue, Dinar Valeev, only 3 drop points during the heats where he beat both of the riders who line up on his outside here. Jimmy Olsen off gate number 3. He's enjoyed his best performance of his career today with 2 heat wins. And Martin Haare-Hiltunen only just creeping in with a win in his final outing. You wouldn't put it past him though to spring a surprise here. He has already made 3 finals in 6 attempts. The lineup in full then across the tape for semi-final 1. It's Koltykov off gate 1, Dinar Valeev off 2, Jimmy Olsen off 3, and Martin Haare-Hiltunen off the outside. Good start as you'd expect from Koltykov off the inside, but it's Haare-Hiltunen who's got there ahead of Dinar Valeev, and the Russian looking back to the inside off turn number 2 was unable to get a move made down the back straight. He's trying the inside line once again, almost side by side at the end of the opening lap. Valeev again bombing for the inside. Martin Haare-Hiltunen occupying the 2nd of the qualification positions at the moment. Takes a look over his shoulder and runs narrower into turn number 3. He's trying to cover off the attack of Dinar Valeev. And all the while, Jimmy Olsen, to his credit, is staying right on the pace of the Russian. Out at the back at the moment, Olsen, but keeping pace with the 2 riders directly ahead of him. And now he dives for the outside line himself, but Valeev has that move covered. The race now looks set to be decided between Martin Haare-Hiltunen in 2nd and Dinar Valeev in 3rd. Olsen having dropped off with that unsuccessful top bend move. Haare-Hiltunen hitting all the ruts as he tries the inside line and holds on. Dmitry Koltykov progresses then. Martin Haare-Hiltunen going through with him. Dinar Valeev is eliminated, and that's another giant killing ride from Martin Haare-Hiltunen to make a 4th final of the 2018 campaign. Koltykov through as expected. Haare-Hiltunen joins him. Now on to semi-final two, the more clear-cut of the two, where you would anticipate two battles in one. The inside gate in red, Dmitry Kometsevich. It'll be interesting to see who gets the verdict out of the two Russians on the two inside gates. They're battling for world number 2 status this year. Alongside him, Daniil Ivanov, leading that fight by 5 points, having tied with Kometsevich during the heats here today. Harold Simonov, gate 3, leading the chasing pack from 6th in the world. And Franz Zorn still looking for his first race victory of the weekend. It's highly unlikely to be here in semi-final 2. Good start from Ivanov. He gets across the front of Kometsevich. Zorn has made a good one, but he's trapped on the outside line, and Kometsevich resumes his rivalry with Daniil Ivanov coming through up the inside, coming off turn 2. It's Ivanov who leads at the end of the opening lap then. Line astern, Dmitry Kometsevich. Franz Zorn and Harold Simon already starting to drop back, and Simon attempting to close down Franz Zorn now for the single point. 2 races in 1 as expected. 1 for the consolation point out in 3rd. Simon looking to the inside line as ever, and Zorn is leaving that run open for the moment. Ivanov looks to have the race victory settled, but 3rd position is as close as you like. Zorn running in deeper into the turns. Simon trying to cut back up the inside line. Again, that move is unfruitful, but he's getting closer and closer with each passing lap here. Harold Simon looking for the extra point, and he's got it coming off turn number 2. Good move there from Harold Simon. It won't be enough for him to progress, but Simon already on a double-figure tally will move on to an 11-point total at his elimination after getting the better of Franz Zorn, who is relegated down into last position. As expected, Daniil Ivanov and Dmitry Kometsevich progressing. The 2 Austrians, Simon and Zorn, eliminated in semi-final 2. An extremely attractive lineup for the final, with 4 riders who have all made the podium this season. Dmitry Koltskov, winner in Inzell last time out here in 2016, goes off gate 1 in red. Daniil Ivanov, who scored a maximum here in 2014 on the occasion of his 2nd world title. He's also on 17 points from the previous heat stages. Dmitry Kometsevich, gate 3, never a winner here in Inzell. And Martin Harri-Hiltunen, looking to go 1 better than his career best runner-up position from Astana. Koltskov off 1, Ivanov off 2, Kometsevich off 3, Harri-Hiltunen, the Swede, the outsider, gate number 4. Harri-Hiltunen has missed the start, he's going to go for the cutback. Koltskov runs the pack wide, and Harri-Hiltunen has managed to get up the inside of Dmitry Kometsevich. The race at the moment for 3rd position. Kometsevich looking wide, Harri-Hiltunen down on the inside line. All 4 riders closely packed as Kometsevich switches up to the inside to try and pass Ivanov. Ivanov has the racing line and holds on. And that move from Kometsevich also appears to have dispatched Martin Harri-Hiltunen. The Swede hasn't given up, but looks down at his machine coming off turn number 4 and drops back. And that leaves us with a 3-way fight now for the podium positions. Dmitry Koltskov, once he hits the front, is very rarely headed, and he should be heading towards yet another victory in 2018. The race in the latter stages is for 2nd. Ivanov covering off the inside. Kometsevich going wider, looking for a smoother run, but he's not getting enough. Ivanov knows how to block, and he's doing so once again. Final 2 turns, Ivanov holds on. His best finish of the 2018 campaign, but once again behind Dmitry Koltskov, who has been so consistent in 2018, marching on towards the 2018 world title. Koltskov with the win ahead of Ivanov and Kometsevich. So just a single point score dropped for Dmitry Koltskov, who's shown no signs of relinquishing his significant championship advantage this season. But a season's best display for Daniil Ivanov, with 2nd behind him, consolidating his world number 2 ranking.
Да, большое спасибо за поздравления.
The track was very fast. The ice was nice and soft, but that meant that starts were important. So tomorrow we will try to get those better than today.
Тяжело было выбраться со 2-3 места, потому что ехали все быстро. Вот. Ну, завтра буду стараться поближе подобраться.
It was a really fast race. I'm really happy with 2nd position and 19 points. It's the first time this season I've made it into the top 2. So tomorrow we'll try to go 1 better.
А так, что касаемо техники, проблем не было никаких, все было хорошо.
In Heat 2 against Daniil Ivanov, I was trying my absolute best, but I couldn't beat him. He was just a bit stronger than me. But the rest of the meeting was perfect. Everything went smoothly and really well.
Но немного не хватило. Но в дальнейшем все наладилось, и я смог выиграть остальные все оставшиеся заезды. И в принципе, готов на борьбу на дальнейшую. Вот осталось еще 3 этапа, и буду стараться наращивать отрыв.
In the absence of Sergei Karachintsev, Martin Hara-Hiltunen takes a clear lead in 4th position and now looks set to finish directly behind the championship podium, while the chasing pack may also hope to overhaul Karachintsev for 5th. But although the wait for confirmation of the 2018 title will surely wait until the opening day in Heerenveen, Dmitry Koltykov has one hand on the trophy, and he has 2 hands on the trophy from day one in Germany. With no complete manufacturers at factory level and only workshop production, Ice Speedway Gladiators board genuine prototype machines. Each is unique, reflecting the individual wishes of the riders, who are generally heavily involved in their bike's construction and maintenance. An Ice Speedway bike is completely unique. It's not like any other bike. So that means every part is specialist and custom made. I'm a professional mechanic by trade, and that means I can do everything myself. I do the metalwork, make the spikes, everything. So every summer I start the preparation of my own bikes, and I also develop my custom-made parts. For example, I design the shape of the covers and make a mold, and then at the factory they create it in carbon fibre. That's the same process at the back and for the chain cover. For the engine, we have a homemade cylinder head because the old Jawa factory closed and they are no longer available. The style, the seat and the position of the handlebars are all especially prepared for me, my height and shape, and for performance as well. Every rider is different, and parts on each bike will be different, often down to personal preference.
Die anderen sind größer, die anderen sind kleiner und jeder präpariert sein Bike für seine Größe selber.
With mechanical performance so crucial in motorsport, Ice Speedway riders are often seen in the paddock working on their machines to find every possible tenth of a second of performance. Returning to the track on day 2, 3 of the Western European riders had enjoyed their best performances of the campaign. Gunther Bauer was back in the points, although he tailed off as the meeting went on. And Harold Simon continues to impress as he challenges for a career-best 5th place ranking. But most impressive was Jimmy Olsen, with 2 race victories, a career-best 9-point score and a place in the semi-finals. I had a very good race yesterday, making the semi-finals, and I like this ice. The bike itself is working well now that I have a new engine. I'm very happy. His fellow countryman Martin Hara-Hiltunen enjoyed his 4th grand final appearance of the season, consolidating 4th position in the rankings behind the 3 lead Russians in the championship fight. In my first ride, I had a lot of problems with a crash, and then I had to ride Niklas's spare bike. Then in my second heat, I had a problem with the throttle. I got better and better, but not quite enough to make the podium. I'm focusing race by race rather than on the championship, because this is my first season, and I would rather focus on my own riding and learning. But of course, I'm enjoying being up there and fighting.
Det är bara kul att vara där uppe.
After their entertaining round 1 matchup on day 1, Dmitry Koltykov and Daniil Ivanov met in the opening round for a second time on day 2. And it was Koltykov who took his revenge after day 1 defeat, making a lap 2 pass on his main rival to secure a first race win of the meeting. Gunther Bauer's aims of improving upon his 5-point score from day 1 lasted only as far as the end of the opening lap in Heat 2. The German legend took a heavy fall on the top turn and was hit by his own machine, withdrawing from the meeting before being taken to hospital with suspected broken ribs.
Richtig gut für den Jungen und ja, wir sind gespannt, ob gleich zurück sein wird im nächsten Lauf auf dem Eis.
Jan Klatowski was in the thick of the action as usual in his round 1 heat appearance, battling his way past Stefan Svensson on lap 2 for 3rd position. but his hopes of making further progress were ended by a heavy fall on lap 4, giving the single point back to Svensson and leaving the Czech scoreless from his opening outing. Jimmy Olsen continued his strong form from day one with a surprise victory in his opening ride in the second meeting, beating Dinar Valeev in Heat 4. The Swede was under pressure throughout, but held on well and kept up good speed to produce his third victory of the weekend. All 8 of the Day 1 semi-finalists were immediately into the provisional qualification positions after the opening round of heats on Day 2. Home hopes were left resting on the shoulders of Hans Weber after the withdrawal of Günther Bauer. Martin Harri-Hiltunen was the comfortable favourite for Heat 5, lining up against Stefan Pletschaka and Jasper Iverma, who scored just 2 points between them on Day 1, and reserve Max Niedermayer, who came in to replace Günther Bauer. Dutchman Iverma provided the highlights of the race, coming through from the back for a well-taken second position. The former Moto3 rider first picked off Max Niedermayer for third on the opening lap, then set after his fellow countryman Stefan Pletschaka. The wild card was yet to score a first point of the weekend on his return to the World Championship, and that unfortunate run continued as he dropped to the back in the closing stages. Max Niedermayer got the verdict for third, following a successful final turn move. A heavy crash for Ove Ledstrom in Heat 6 affected his scoring in the remainder of the meeting and eventually forced his withdrawal from proceedings. The Swede had sat third behind Dinar Valeev, and it was Jan Klatowski who took advantage of his fall to claim third. Three of the round 1 heat winners met in Heat 7, and it was Dmitry Kolchakov who took the checkered flag, passing Dmitry Komitsevich on the opening lap and pulling away from there. A run of 6 consecutive single-point scores was finally brought to an end for Niklas Svensson in Heat 8, but not how the Swede might have hoped. He finished at the back after Harold Simon found a way past him on his favoured inside line on lap 3. Ahead of the battle for third, Franz Zorn took his first race victory of the weekend, with Hans Weber a creditable second. Having not yet met any of the Russian quartet, Martin Harri-Hiltunen sat level with Dmitry Kolchakov on 6 points after 2 rounds of heats. Meanwhile, Hans Weber moved into a provisional top 8 place, with Harold Simon dropping back. After suffering a first non-scoring ride in Heat 8, a back-to-back appearance for Niklas Svensson saw him bite the ice with a first turn fall in Heat 9. With just 1 point from 3 rides, his hopes of a semi-final space appeared all but over. In the restaging, it was Jasper Iverma who impressed, making a pass on former World Team champion Stefan Svensson for third position in Heat 9. Jimmy Olsen had a subdued third ride by comparison to his exploits earlier in the weekend, restricted to third position by Franz Zorn in Heat 10. The Austrian showed improved form on Day 2 in Inzell compared to the opening meeting and had dropped just 2 points in his first 3 outings. Previously unbeaten, Dmitry Kolchakov and Martin Harri-Hiltunen met in Heat 11, but it was Kolchakov who maintained his maximum hopes, and the real battle was out at the back over the single point. Dinar Valeev taking third, surprising Harold Simon with one of his own tricks on the inside line. Hans Weber enjoyed another strong ride in Heat 12, keeping up the pace with race leader Dmitry Komitsevich, the Russian taking his second race win of the day. Webber's second position finish moved him onto 5 points from 3 rides, and with easier outings to come. Harold Simon dropped out of the top 8 positions after his non-scoring ride in Heat 11. Hans Webber and Jimmy Olsen climbing at his expense. The top 5 had started to break away after 3 rounds of heats. Sitting on the fringes of the top 8 after his third ride, Dinar Valeev made an important overtake on Fran Zorn for second in Heat 13 that improved his chances of a top 8 ranking. The Russian moved on to 7 points from 4 rides and within touching distance of a semi-final space. Harold Simon took an important second position in Heat 14 to keep his top 8 hopes alive. The Austrian, having struggled in the early stages of the meeting, bounced back well after the interval break, his pass on Stefan Svensson giving him 2 important points from his 4th outing. Max Niedermayer made his second appearance as a reserve replacement for Günther Bauer in Heat 15, but after a solid enough start, he was quickly relegated to the back by Jan Klatowski. Having looked a strong contender for back-to-back semi-final appearances in the early stages of the meeting, Jimmy Olsen's top 8 challenge took a severe knock with a fall in Heat 16. The Swede had been running third, and the drop point also dropped him out of the provisional qualification positions. Hans Webber was the rider to take advantage with an excellent win in the restaging. Martin Hare-Hiltunen suffering only his second defeat of the day. The Swede admittedly made a lap 3 error, but Webber surged past well and held on valiantly to delight the local crowd. Race wins for Fran Zorn and Hans Webber left them in the strongest position for qualification, behind the top 4, whose progression to the semi-final stages was by now already confirmed. The bottom 6, meanwhile, were now out of contention. Dinar Valeev enjoyed his first race win of the day with a hard-fought success in Heat 17, having fought his way past Hans Webber. The German's second place nonetheless moved him onto 10 points and into the semi-finals, his best return of the season so far. Martin Hare-Hiltunen continues to show no fear of his Russian rivals, and although he finished behind both Dmitry Komitsevich and Danil Ivanov in Heat 18, he challenged Ivanov doggedly on the inside line throughout. Two challenging meetings as track reserve for Max Niedermayer ended with his 4th ride and a heavy crash whilst attempting to overhaul Stefan Pletschaka for 3rd in Heat 19. Thankfully, Niedermayer showed no ill effects after the incident. Heat 20 turned into something of a demolition derby with the last of the qualification positions on the line. Jan Klatowski was already out of contention for progression to the semi-final stages, but suffered a disqualification for exceeding track limits by bursting the barriers on the exit of turn 4. In the second staging, Jasper Iverma went down, whilst well adrift of the 2 race leaders. That left Jimmy Olsen and Harold Simon fighting it out in a head-to-head over the final qualification position to the semi-finals. but the race turned into an anticlimax after Jimmy Olsen snagged the back straight bails and became the third disqualified rider. Harold Simon, the last man standing, somewhat fortunate to earn qualification for the semi-final stages.
Was hier die Jury jetzt entscheidet.
An emphatic margin of qualification for Harold Simon in the end, but in reality it was much closer than that between the Austrian veteran and Swedish youngster Jimmy Olsen. A total of 7 double-figure scorers, with the best Western Europeans taking points from Dinar Valeev. Semi-final 1, the more evenly matched of the two semi-finals, with 3 Western Europeans in the lineup. Dmitry Koltskov goes off gate 1 in red. This should be a straightforward win and qualification for him. Gate 2 in blue, Martin Harri Hiltunen, winner of his 2 opening rides. He's tailed off somewhat since then. Franz Zorn goes off gate 3 in white. The Austrian hasn't been able to match Harri Hiltunen so far this season, but this is a good opportunity for him to make a first final of the year. And off the outside gate in yellow, it's Hans Weber, looking the best he ever has. Superb in the heats with a 10-point score. And what a story it would be if he could make it into the final for the German fans here to support him this afternoon. Koltskov, the clear favourite then. He's on a maximum 15 after 5 rides. You'd expect him to blast away to victory. But we've got 3 highly competitive Western European riders on the 3 outside start positions. Martin Harri Hiltunen, who's turned into something of a grand final regular. Franz Zorn, who hasn't made it this season. And Hans Weber looking to make it into the top 4 for the first time. Good start off gates 1 and 3. It's Zorn who's got there on the outside line. Koltskov bobbles on the first 2 turns. And Martin Harri Hiltunen has hit the front down the back straight. You don't often see Koltskov pop out of the start first and get overtaken, but it's Martin Harri Hiltunen who leads at the end of lap number 1. Here comes the reigning world champion. He's going to build it up, goes for the cutback off turn number 2. Harri Hiltunen tries to stay in. Left leg flailing as he heads into turn 3, but Koltskov has burst his way past. Now it's all about the second qualification position behind Koltskov. It's Harri Hiltunen who occupies it for now. Franz Zorn has got his work cut out holding off Hans Weber, but he isn't far behind Harri Hiltunen himself, and the Austrian goes in tighter on turn number 3 to see if he can gain some extra ground. Again, he runs in narrower. He's aware of Hans Weber buzzing around his back wheel, looking up wider Hans Weber. Less than a bike length between 3rd and 4th positions. Here comes Weber again, darting around the outside line, all the way around the outside, but Zorn blocks him out. It's Koltskov who wins it, Harri Hiltunen who takes 2nd, and Franz Zorn was so preoccupied with holding back Hans Weber that he could never find a way to gain in enough ground on Martin Harri Hiltunen, who progresses alongside the reigning world champion Dmitry Koltskov to the grand final. Semi-final 2, undoubtedly the tougher semi-final, and Harold Simon will curse his luck at having landed here. 3 Russians off the 3 inside gates. Dmitry Komitsevich, 3rd place on day 1, beaten only by Dmitry Koltskov in the heats here today. Daniil Ivanov, comfortably best of the rest behind Koltskov and Komitsevich. He could do with beating Komitsevich in the context of the fight for championship silver. Dinar Valeev off gate 3, looking slightly less confident than yesterday when he failed to make the final, so he could be the weak link of the Russians. And Harold Simon completes the lineup off the outside, a real outsider, sneaking into the semi-finals after some good fortune in Heat 20. Good battle in prospect between the 3 Russians here, but it is the favourites who've made the starts. Dmitry Komitsevich going straight up to the outside line, Daniil Ivanov in 2nd, more concerned about ensuring his place in the grand final as he looked over his shoulder coming off turn number 2 to hold back Dinar Valeev. Valeev running the Harold Simon line, narrow down the straights and holding the inside line really well, and it's side by side coming off turn number 2. Ivanov with the wider arc has the momentum and is able to pull back past on each occasion. But Dinar Valeev has never been more than a bike length behind him, and we have a really close fight here over 2nd position. Valeev on the inside in white, Ivanov looking for the outside in blue, keeps looking for Dinar Valeev as well, and every time he looks he seems to go backwards into the path of the young Russian. Away and gone out in front is Comet Savic. Ivanov occupies second. Ivanov hits a rut off turn 2. Valeev alongside him. Ivanov tries to move to block, but it's too late. Valeev has come past. Ivanov will look for the cutback off the final turn. And Daniil Ivanov misses out on the grand final after a last lap pass from Dino Valeev. A small mistake from Ivanov, who'd been defensive all race. And that cost him severely because he was never able to stretch a lead over Dino Valeev, who takes second and progresses alongside Dmitry Comet Savic to the final. So an interesting lineup for the final, and on paper, 2 battles in one here. The 2 highest scorers off the inside, and Harri Hiltunen versus Valeev off the outside. Gate 1 in red, Dmitry Koltykov, track specialist and 5 times winner here, he's on a maximum. Dmitry Comet Savic, gate 2, never a winner here in Inzell. Gate 3 in white, Martin Harri Hiltunen. His fight, you suspect, is with Dino Valeev for third, and what would be a third 2018 podium for the Swede. And Dino Valeev enjoying his best weekend of the season so far, still waiting for that elusive first career grand final win. Koltykov off 1, Comet Savic off 2, Harri Hiltunen off 3, Valeev off the outside. As I said, 2 races in 1 expected. Watch for the 2 riders off the 2 inside gates, the favourite for this final. Koltykov has made it. Comet Savic, if anything, made it slightly better, but Koltykov blocks him out on the first 2 turns. Valeev buzzing down the inside of Comet Savic, who gets out of shape heading into turn 3, and Valeev comes through for second position. Comet Savic, though, has the outside line to burst back past. Koltykov then it is who leads, Comet Savic in second. And we're now into the positions that might have been expected in this one. Can Martin Harri Hiltunen find his way past Dino Valeev and onto the podium? He's running the inside line very nicely. Valeev looks over his shoulder, tries to cover the inside line. Harri Hiltunen comes through, but then comes down and into the safety bails. Disappointment for Martin Harri Hiltunen, who will surely find himself disqualified there. He was completely alongside Dino Valeev. The Russian looked over his shoulder and then moved across the front of the Swede, leaving him nowhere to go. He hits a rut and goes down. So 3 riders only for the restaging, and we now know who our 3 podium finishers will be, but in what order? Koltykov, Comet Savic and Valeev. Day 2 here in Inzell takes up on the final, and Comet Savic has made an even better start this time around to hit the front, but Koltykov again squares off the first 2 turns, pulls alongside and drills a move down the inside into turn number 3. Koltykov then leads at the end of the opening lap ahead of Comet Savic, and Dino Valeev has never looked at the races in this one. In fact, he's well tailed off already from the top 2. So it's almost a run-off in the top 2 positions, 1-on-1. And in a 1-on-1 against Dmitry Koltykov, no one's going to fancy their chances. Koltykov looking for a 7th consecutive race win here in Inzell. And to all intents and purposes, it looks as though he's going to get it. Comet Savic is slipping back now in second place, and we're in towards the final lap. Koltykov, looking comfortable, has been superb in 2018. This is going to be his most dominant World Championship win, because surely there's no doubt now about who will take the crown. Yet another grand final victory in 2018 for Dmitry Koltykov. Comet Savic over the line in second, and Dino Valeev eventually comes over the line for the single point in third, but his podium finish was already guaranteed after the disqualification for Martin Harri Hiltunen. An anticlimax in the grand final in the end, won once again by Dmitry Koltykov. Dino Valeev taking a second podium finish of the campaign, in the process moves into 6th position in the World Championship and is within touching distance of 5th overall. Yesterday I had more mechanical problems with the carburation. Today we managed to fix the problem, thankfully. It was an amazingly fast track, full throttle all the time, and I managed to use some strategy to get into that 3rd place.
Тактически по опыту старался как-то. Вчера по общим очкам 4-е место, а так 5-е. Финал, полуфинал не попал я. Ну так, все здорово, конечно. Сегодня настроились.
Today's meeting was, of course, better than yesterday's because I finished second. And I'm still trying hard to find something to catch Dmitry Koltykov. Today I got another maximum, which was the plan at the start of the day, and I hope I can do it again in the next 2 rounds. A big thank you to my fans watching this at home.
Добиться максимум, и бороться до последнего этапа буду, как я умею, показывать красивую езду, борьбу.
An incredible 5th maximum score in 8 meetings moves Dmitry Koltkov another step closer to the title, particularly with his closest series rival Daniil Ivanov dropping out at the semi-final stage. A 33-point margin now separates them. All that remains now is for Dmitry Koltkov to see out the season in style at the remaining round in the Netherlands in 3 weeks' time. A perfect scenario for the championship decider in Heerenveen next time out.
Für die Unterstützung bei diesem Rennen. Ja, Durchsatz auch.